Hey everybody, this is Alex Merced from alexmercedcoder.com, and this is a video on the prototype design pattern. Now the prototype design pattern, basically the idea is this: instead of creating like a factory, so basically creating a class or function that creates objects for you, instead of using a builder where you create steps in a build process, instead of using a singleton where you create just one instance of the thing and it just does the stuff, what you're doing here is you're saying, you know what, the object I need is pretty much, I need many of them. They're identical. And, instead of creating it from a instance of or creating it from a blueprint like a class, so in most languages, classes act as blueprints. JavaScript is very unique, where technically this whole prototype method is literally how the whole language works. Instead, what we're doing is we're cloning an existing object. So I may have I may have this object. So we'll call this proto const proto equals Alex, our name, Alex, age 34. And what we want is we want to start cloning Alex. So again, let's just give it in sort of a theoretical veneer to keep this making sense. So I want to clone that. Now I could create like an Alex function that just generates Alexes, but why when I can just do this? Okay, so const clone equals proto. Now there is a problem with this piece of code, because this is specifically has to do with sort of just how JavaScript works. So when you're dealing with collections, arrays, and objects, the variable is not the actual array or object, it's a reference to it. So technically here I'm not even creating a clone. I'm just creating another variable that refers to the same proto, the same object. So watch what happens. If I were to say, hey, clone dot height equals 510, and then I were to console log both clone and proto, we're going to notice something very odd. They both got height, because technically they're the same object. So when I do this, that's not necessarily going to get me this whole prototype method, because the idea behind prototype is you're creating a copy, but it's a distinct copy. So in JavaScript, if you want to make sure, there's a couple different ways you can do it. My favorite way to do it is just to use the spread operator. So to create a distinct object, you just do this, because the curly brackets tell JavaScript to create a new object in memory. So it's taking up some new memory, putting in some new information. But what's going to be inside of it? The same exact stuff as proto, because the spread operator just says all the stuff that's in this. So now, if I hit save and we run this again, now watch what happens. So proto, the original, no longer has height because it's a distinct object. We never gave it height. But the clone, which got height after the fact, gets it. So just an interesting quirk about how JavaScript works. But basically what I can do is I can just keep making clones of Alex all day. And I'm not necessarily building a class, and I'm not necessarily building a function that returns me a new object. I'm literally just copying the existing Alex into a new one. And that's sort of the concept behind prototype. What you're doing is you're just, instead of creating something new from scratch, you're just cloning something that already exists. But then once it's cloned, it is a unique instance that can then be modified and whatnot. So the result is the same, whether you create a blueprint through a class and then build it from the blueprint versus cloning. But conceptually, the difference is, am I making a copy of an existing thing versus building something from instructions on how to build something that may not exist yet. So that's sort of the idea behind the prototype design pattern. So the idea is you're going to create, instead of creating looking to create a class, you're creating the piece of data that you want to copy already. You're going to maybe use a class to build the initial instance, but going forward, then you're just making duplicates of the instance. And then that's essentially the concept here. So cool. I'll see you guys later.